In the year 1730, during the reign of the Emperor Yung Cheng, one of the early emperors of the Manchu Qing dynasty, many kung fu experts were recruited by the emperor and were taught how to use that fearsome weapon, the flying guillotine. The purpose of this was to suppress and kill the supporters of the former Ming dynasty, and many of those patriots fell to the new weapon. Those who escaped went into hiding. It was to seek these remaining rebels out and kill them that the government sent a noted master of the flying guillotine, Feng Sheng Wu Qi. Feng, who was blind, disguised himself as a Buddhist Lama and lived in a mountain retreat with his two disciples, Chao Lung and Chao Fu.
And such was the opening for this classic film from 1976. A film that once audiences had a chance to gaze their eyes upon the screen, they would never be the same. This film is a direct classic. I'm talking about, it's right up there with anything that Bruce Lee did, the Shaw Brothers did, or whatever. We're talking about Master of the Flying Guillotine. This film was, believe it or not, the first of its kind in so many ways. And we have none to thank but the legendary Jimmy Wong Yu, who was such an innovative mind at the time that his ideas changed Kung Fu cinema for the rest of its days. Jimmy Wong Yu was a man who had a creativity about himself. He was able to break the constraints that were of the Shaw Brothers studio bounding him after his success with the one-armed swordsman with Shaw's. He wanted to write, he wanted to direct, he wanted to come up with his own ideas, and he was able to do exactly that. This film followed another film of his, The Chinese Boxer, from 1970. And then just before this film, its predecessor, The One-Armed Boxer. Now, many people may not know this. I've done a review on The One-Armed Boxer already, but what they may not know is that Master of the Flying Guillotine is also known as The One-Armed Boxer Part 2. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this film is a direct sequel to The One-Armed Boxer. So if you've had the pleasure of enjoying The One-Armed Boxer, Master of the Flying Guillotine is probably one of the greatest sequels to an original hit of all time. I liken it to Star Wars, and then you had The Empire Strikes Back, huh? Is not The Empire Strikes Back one of the best sequels in cinematic history to what happened in the first and opening stanza of film? So with that being said, this is what we're talking about this evening. And I am very, very happy to bring these film reviews and discussions to you, because it gives me a chance to awaken something that was always there with me since my childhood, and that is the Kung Fu film experience. Now, there was a film that premiered in 1975 from the Shaw Studio called The Flying Guillotine. Now, this film was the first feature to depict the head-chopping weapon that was implemented. Legend has it that during the Qing dynasty, the Manchus had created this barbaric weapon that would decapitate or sever the heads of rebels. And though there are no lasting blueprints of what the actual weapon looked like, Shaw Brothers Studio created something that became the stuff of legend for these films, because there have been many guillotine films after the initial film by Shaw Brothers in 1976. And as we recollect, think back, and remember these films for what they were, just know that The Flying Guillotine, directed by Ho Mang-hwa, who was a Shaw Brothers director, and it starred Chen Quan-tai. It is the first guillotine film and was very popular. And many people thought that The Master of the Flying Guillotine was a sequel to that film, but it was not. The Flying Guillotine was a Shaw Brothers production, and it's almost a 2-hour film. But Jimmy Wong Yu's Master of the Flying Guillotine was a different kettle of fish, as my brother, the dearly departed Kurt Sugar, used to say. All in on its own. And it was something that many people, once they saw it, their kung fu film experience had been changed forever. One Arm Boxer versus The Flying Guillotine is also a name and title for the film in certain areas of the world. And of course, The One Arm Boxer Part 2. But here in the U.S., we remember it as Master of the Flying Guillotine. And that opening soundbite that I played for you was an introduction to the film, explaining and laying the landscape about what you were about to witness. Because if you saw the first film, Jimmy Wong Yu had taken on an assortment of martial villains who had different styles and came from different regions of the world. And Feng Xing Wu Shi, who was the Flying Guillotine Master, the blind flying, and he was blind. That was another thing about this character. This movie might require a part 2 to explain everything. But I'm so excited, and I don't want to leave anything out, but I know I'm going to leave things out. But Feng Xing Wu Shi had 2 students that were Tibetan monks, and that's who Jimmy Wong Yu had killed in the first film when they were fighting in the mountainside. One could blow his body up, like his body would inflate. The other one had a death touch, where he could touch you with 2 fingers and kill you. And he defeated both of those guys along with the rest of the villains in that film. And another title for the one-armed boxer is the Chinese Professionals. And that's why they called them the Chinese Professionals, because they were all hired to wipe out Jimmy Wong Yu's School of Martial Arts, where his Sifu stood up against the bad guys who were trying to overtake their town. And they murdered him and severely wounded Jimmy by chopping off his right arm. He later, when nursed to health by his Sifu's daughter, decided to hone his skills by burning all of the remaining nerves in his good arm so it could withstand any pain or any blow or whatever. And he learned to kill with a single punch, a single blow with that one arm. So he became famous, known as the one-arm boxer. So in this film, Master Sifu Feng was also enlisted by the Qing. And they said in the year 1130. So that's way back in the calendar, right? So you have to understand that's how long. But when he found out that his 2 students were murdered by the one-armed boxer, he took it upon himself to set out for revenge. And thus began the story of this film. This movie is awesome, people. One of the things that it did to change cinematic history forever was not only did it also bring about a single villain who was almost like Darth Vader and had a killing weapon like a lightsaber for Darth Vader. It's the flying guillotine for Feng Xing Wuxi. And he was blind, so he had a vulnerability, but his senses were super heightened. There's a scene in the film where he's in this warehouse and he's fighting Jimmy Wong Yu, and Jimmy Wong Yu releases these birds in the warehouse, and they're flying and fluttering all around, and he can hear their wings and everything, but he's trying to determine where Jimmy is in there. And there's this great scene where he's looking around and the camera shows his ears moving as he's hearing all of the sounds, and then his head rotates around like Linda Blair in The Exorcist, meaning that he had full mobility and control over his body. This guy was bad as hell, man. I'm telling you, man. This film was trend-setting, groundbreaking. And another thing about it, it was another film that depicted tournaments for the first time with all of these weird characters that you wouldn't see anywhere else but in a Jimmy Wong Yu film. There was a character played, and like I said, there's so much to say about this film. I don't want to leave anything out. But let me just go through the cast really quick, man. Let me go through the cast really quick. We got Jimmy Wong Yu, who was returning as the one-armed boxer. We had Doris Longcher, who was famous during this era of Kung Fu films, and she played in a lot of films from Taiwan. She was the female lead in the movie. Then we had Kam Kang, who played Feng Xing Wuxi. And Kam Kang, as he was made up in this film, he was hard to recognize as his normal self because he's kind of a rugged looking dude, but they put this gray hair on him. They put the gray eyebrows and the beard and goatee on him, so he was hard to recognize. But man, was he a badass. This was his best role ever in his career. And we also had Long Fei, who is always a standby co-star of Jimmy Wong Yu's, playing opposite of Wong Yu's heroes most of the time. And in this film, he plays a guy from Japan called Win Without a Knife. And as he's participating in the tournament, he's scoring victories by cheating. And he's got a knife at the end of one of the weapons that he's using, a tong fa or something, but it has a blade in it. He pulls the guy away from where everybody could see them up close, and then he stabs the dude. It's like, man, this movie is great, I'm telling you. I can't get enough of the master of the flying guillotine. Also returning to Jimmy Wong Yu's films, Sit Han, who plays one of the tournament directors and veteran actor Kung Fu man Wang Yangxing, who plays the Hindu master whose arms can stretch about an extra extended like 15 feet. His arms extend. It's the craziest thing you ever seen, man. And he's fighting in the tournament and his arms stretch out and he's choking a guy from like 20 feet away. Man, it's crazy. And when his arms start stretching out, they start playing that Indian Hindu music like it's like he's choking. Oh, this movie is the greatest, man. I'm telling you. But it's like watching it, you just love it, man. You love it for everything that it does. The special effects for the time that it was made were on point. The guillotine that the master of the flying guillotine uses, it's one of the awesome weapons that you've ever seen in cinematic history, bro. One of the most awesome weapons. This guy, Jimmy Wong Yu, he came up with all types of creative ideas, man. And these people assisted him in making this one of the greatest films of all times. Man, I cannot say enough about this film. It was one of the greatest times I ever had at a theater. I remember my dad taking me to see this, man. Dude, I was about 10 years old. Watching this movie in the theater, it was like one of the greatest experiences, I'm telling you. And the audience was sitting there at the scenes that you were supposed to laugh, you laughed. At the scenes that you were supposed to cringe, you cringed. And when the guillotine struck and took somebody's head off, the whole audience will, oh, you know, it's like, it's one of the things that, like, a first time viewing, it hits you different. It just does. One of the greatest, man. One of the greatest. Jimmy Wong Yu will ever be a great guy for producing this film. He directed it. He wrote it. He came up with the ideas. The choreography in the film was done by the Lau brothers, Lau Kao-leung and Lau Kao-yang, and they did a tremendous job. They had people on their edges of their seats in this film. Then you had Sham Chin Bo, who played a Thai kickboxer. And when he was trying out for the tournament, he was beating up the Eagle Claw school who was holding the tournament. He was beating up their students. And that's when Doris Lung Chur decided to face him with her dad's approval because she was an Eagle Claw fighter. And they faced off. They fought like to a draw till the dad stepped in and stopped them before somebody got hurt. But he walked around, Sham Chin Bo, as the Thai boxer, he walked around barefooted. And his feet looked really dark and like they were, bronzed or something. So they were very hard. He was breaking up concrete by kicking it and stuff. He was really tough. But there was a crucial moment about his feet being like that. And at the end of the film, when he faces off against the one-armed boxer, because basically all of the guys who have these special skill sets and stuff are hired by the Qing to try to kill the one-armed boxer. So he has to beat all these guys. But Sham Chin Bo gets the worst of it, bro, because I just thought it was cruel what they did to him. The one-armed boxer took this hut that was out in the mountains, and he took the flooring out and put these metal sheets down for flooring. And he told his guys, when this guy come in the hut with me to fight, take your torches and put them under the hut, because he dug trenches around the hut. So that when they threw their torches under the hut, the steel plates that he used for flooring, they got really hot. So the Thai kickboxer, when he came in there barefooted, and he was trying to get out of the hut because the steel floor was getting hot. They were standing outside with spears and stuff. So like if he tried to open the door, they'll shoot the spears in there. He couldn't get out. He tried to climb through the window. He couldn't get out. And his feet were burning. How cruel, man. The one-armed boxer was dirty, man. He was like, it probably smelled like bacon up in there. That dude's feet was burning. He was hollering, ah! His feet was burning up. The one-armed boxer. Listen, man, that was the cruelest thing, man. That dude got his feet burned. He burned to death up in that thing, man. And when they pulled him out of there, they showed the bottom of his feet, man. You guys ever seen one of them Filipino dishes that they call the lechon? That's the roasted pig. That's what his feet look like. His feet was extra crispy. His shit was extra crispy, bro. I was like, the one-armed boxer was too cruel, man. And look, when he came out of there, because the soles of his shoes was starting to melt off, right? So he come out of there and he jumped into one of them big vats that they have as the wine bottles, those big they had it filled with water. He come out of there, he jumped in there with it both feet, and you saw the steam come out of the thing like shh. That let you know that Thai boxer was roasted, man. Here's a picture of him fighting Doris Longchur right here. But man, the one-armed boxer hooked him up big time. I'm telling you, man, this film is so great, man, on so many levels. There's this one scene early in the movie where the one-armed boxer is teaching his students in the school, right? And he was like, everybody gather around. Today I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you the technique of jumping. So they take this basket, this rattan basket, and they fill it full of bricks. And he jumps up on the top of it and walks around the edge. And he tells the other students to try it. They try it, they fall over in the basket and everything. Then he said, when you finish that and you practice, I'll show you the second technique. So he calls them all inside of the school. And he says, this is the light technique. Man, he jumps up in the air and flies to the side of the wall like this. And starts walking up the wall. Then he walk across the ceiling. Then he comes down the other side and he comes down to the floor. All the students are like, oh. Let me tell you something, man. If I had ever gone to a school and the teacher was doing something like that, man, I ain't leaving that school till I learn that damn technique. That nigga was flying on the wall and walking across the ceiling like Spider-Man. Let me tell you, man. The one-armed boxer is the baddest dude in Kung Fu history. And he only got one arm. Whooping people's ass, torturing them and shit. This is it, man. I'm telling you. It's a great film. It's a great film. I'm going to take a moment out to go to the chat, man, because I know we got people out there. Y'all been talking and everything, man. But hey, listen. you ain't heard me in none of my Kung Fu film focuses as excitedly talking about these films like I am this one, man, because this one right here, it is a cinematic masterpiece. If I would love them to remake this movie with maybe somebody like Donnie Yen or whatever playing the role that Jimmy Wong Yu played, the one-armed boxer, with today's special effects. Oh my God. That's the remake that we need, y'all. That's the remake. Master of the Flying Guillotine 2024. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there, man. But let me go to the chat, man, and see who's in the building this evening. I ain't ignoring y'all, man. I was just so excitedly talking about this film opening up, man. This is a great movie, man. It's a great movie. William Old School is out there. What's good with you, William? Big homie Coop says, peace and blessings, Sifu. Backsmack the like button, people. Class is in session, so please pay attention and salute to all the family in the chat. Shogun is in the building. What's good with you, Shogun? He says, salute everybody. Big homie Coop is saluting William. William is saluting right back. 704 Joe is in the building. What's going on with you? Big homie says, I knew this was an instant classic the moment I saw it. Right? I'm telling you, man, there was nothing like this, bro. Nothing. Stephen L. the Mac is in the building. What's good with you, Stephen L.? I see you out there. William says, oh, okay. William got some personal stuff going on there. Big homie Coop says the one-armed boxer was dope as you know what. Yep, it was. 704 Joe says there was 2 or 3 knockoff versions of this movie. No, it wasn't, my friend. No, it wasn't. Culture That says it was a good movie. Just had some cheesy, gimmicky scenes and props. Like the storyline. Look here, man. Cultural Dat, sit down, okay? Sit down. Don't come in here trying to diminish a Kung Fu classic, bro. Look at the time and the year that it was made. For the time that it was made and what they were able to accomplish, this film stands out. Stormy B Man ain't been excited about no other Kung Fu film that he has reviewed with the same type of enthusiasm that I've had for this one this evening. That should tell you a lot right there. Was it gonna win Academy Awards? Hell no. Was it a damn good time at the theater? You bet your bucks. Shamar Rashawn Shalom says, salute to the sensei. He says, this was one of my favorite flicks. Geo James is out there. What's good with you? 704 Joe says, remember in the movie when they practice on the dogs with the flying guillotine? No, 704 Joe, that's not this film, my brother. That's the other film, The Flying Guillotine, that I spoke about early in the show. And that's why I wanted to make the distinction, because that was a Shaw Brothers film that starred Chen Quan Tai. And this was Jimmy Wong Yu's masterpiece that far exceeded the original Flying Guillotine by country miles. Yes, sir. Geo James is saluting and laughing. He says, I remember this movie. Shamar says, like Dialism from Street Fighter. That's where they got it, bro. That's where they got it. Because in this film was made in 76. And that's you know what a lot of the tournament films that spawned after this and Street Fighter games and everything came from this movie. Bruce Lee's introduction to Enter the Dragon, where he showed the Shaolin Temple and where he was taking on Sammo Hung in that opening fight scene, and they're dressed like MMA fighters surrounded by Shaolin and Wu-Tang and other monks. If you notice the robes, they had blue, black, red, and gold dressed monks surrounding their mat where they fought. That was Bruce Lee unifying all the martial schools for Shaolin and Wu-Tang in that opening fight scene for Enter the Dragon. But I bet you guys never thought about that, did you? You see, Bruce had vision. He saw things far ahead. Even with the MMA gloves and the trunks and the, leg bands and stuff that they wore in that film, they're doing that now in the cage fighting. But Jimmy Wang Yu took that tournament look from that and the Hans Island tournament, and he changed it into something totally different. Just 3 years later with Master of the Flying Guillotine. Do you see what I'm talking about? That's what I'm saying. When you know the history of these films and how they played out, and you could see certain elements that someone took, they introduced, and then other elements that somebody carried that and took it further. That's what Jimmy Wang Yu was good at. He was very good at that. Sean the Icon is out there. Marlonia76 says this movie goes hard. Omega Red is in the building. Box with Straight Right says, I love this movie. Back to bed. Watch this on a replay. Sean the Icon says, Wang Yu loved them one-armed characters. He was a legend. And nobody played them like he did. He was the most athletic guy with one arm bound up, fighting the way he fought on screen. It was amazing. And Jimmy Wang Yu's karate and kung fu sucked. But he looked damn good playing the one-armed guy. He really did. Just Do Boxing in the building saying, salute Sensei OG, respect to the chat. Thank you for stopping by, Just Do. This is a classic kung fu film of epic proportions in my Han from Enter the Dragon voice, man. There's nothing like this. I so wish to see this film remade with today's type of special effects. The Hindu fighter whose arms extend, what they could do with that with CGI now, it's absolutely absurd, man. Absolutely absurd. Great stuff, man. Great stuff. Does anyone have any questions about this film? Because I can continue, but I talked and laughed a lot early on with this, trying to introduce you guys to it, and I'm not trying to get away from the idea of making this an interactive experience. But man, this is a great film, man. And I love this movie, bro. I love this film. So yeah. Yeah, but Lau Ka-wing, he played a character in the film as well, and Pops, his brother, was the chief choreographer of the film. But this was excellent, man. It was excellent. It was released, I had the date here. This was released in this was released in April of 1976, April 24th, 1976. Jimmy Wang Yu was the screenwriter and the director. Just an amazing cinematic experience. I remember watching this film in the same summer that Jaws came out. And then there was another Bruce exploitation film that played in certain movie houses with this film, and that was The Real Bruce Lee, which was a semi-documentary along with a collage of film clips of Bruce Lee's early films when he was a kid, black and white films where he acted as a child, and then there's a segment of the film where they talk about his imitators that would later be called clones. And this film also introduced Dragon Lee, who became one of the most famous Bruce Lee imitators because they said he was like Bruce Lee on crack. So, but that played in movie houses with Master of the Flying Guillotine back in 1976. And I remember seeing the real Bruce Lee and this film at the same theater the same day. And I saw Jaws like shortly after that. But man, even though Jaws was a breakout film in 1976, to me it didn't top Master of the Flying Guillotine. That's just because I was a kung fu movie head, but I'm sure there were a lot of others who loved these films like I did. I'm going to read one of the reviews online of this film, and this review comes from December of 2006 from a gentleman that I knew from another website called Master of One Inch Punch. And his summarization of this film, he calls it an iconic cult classic. And Woke, I see you out there. Champion Heart as well, I see you guys. His review goes on to say, few films enjoy the moniker of a cult classic. Few films have a one-armed hero, a blind antagonist who wields a flying guillotine, steal German techno music for the soundtrack, and a martial arts tournament in the middle of the film, and have been inspirational to Quentin Tarantino and video games. Master of the Flying Guillotine, aka the one-armed boxer versus the flying guillotine, is one of several old-school martial art films to take on an iconic stature amongst Asian film fanatics. Among them include Five Deadly Venoms, Fist of Fury, and Drunken Master. This movie is one of my favorite Taiwanese films produced by First Films. It is 1730, during the reign of Emperor Yung Chen of the Manchu dynasty, and is, in the case of all films about this oppressive era, the protagonists are supporters of the Ming dynasty. The awesome antagonist is a blind Buddhist named Feng Xing Wuxi, played with demonic fury by Cam Kong. He wears Buddhist garb, has his own lifted music theme of Super 16 by the German group Neo. They also use Super by Neo in the opening theme, and Mitternot, I can't pronounce these German names, they're talking about the titles of the techno music. And he throws bombs that remind me of Tim from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, and carries an ingenious weapon called the Flying Guillotine. It was used early in the movie The Flying Guillotine from 1975. This weapon is a round circular disc with serrated edges on the outside and a retractable net with sharp knives that can be thrown by its user to go over the heads of its opponent, and with a jerk of the attached chain, rip the head off. It's also been folded and fit in your pocket. With this weapon and his learned knowledge that his students, Chow Lung and Chow Fu, was killed by the one-armed boxer, he goes off in search of his revenge. The one-armed boxer, Jimmy Wong Yu, is reprising his most successful role as well as directing this film. He's the Sifu of a martial arts school where he shows his students how to fight, walk on empty baskets, and walk on ceilings. See, I was just talking about that. His students want to enter a martial arts tournament run by Wu Changxing of the Eagle Claw School, but he fears that the government might find them out. He does agree to go watch the tournament. The tournament is one of the many highlights of the film, where the tournament was nothing new. With Enter the Dragon, it was done several years earlier. The approach in this film of many styles and deadly fighting will go on to influence video games such as Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. There are 9 fights that range in quality, but most are memorable. The first is Long Spear versus Long Stick. This is a short but decent fight that is more memorable because of the underrated Lau Ka Wing, and that it is more calm than the fights that are about to happen. However, there is much more. There is a Mongolian who looks like a silent movie star. He says there's a double fatality. There are crotch kicks, eye pokes, pole fighting, and one-arm fighter who accidentally shows his other arm, and a cheating Thai fighter, and an Indian fighter who can stretch his limbs to attack his opponents. One of my favorite fights is the 5th fight between Eagle Claw's Doris Lungcher and a monkey boxer named Ma Wah Kung, who is small, agile, and carries the fight between the two, being comedic relief. He will not win, but he will not die either. This tournament is just a diversion. The main plot will continue after the abrupt conclusion of the tournament. There are still several fights to go, and 2 are unforgettable. The first involves the one-arm boxer versus the Thai fighter. I just talked about that. Man, listen, I'm not going to go and read all of this because there's a little bit more. I just wanted to let you know that this person that wrote this review, he scored this film out of a 10. He scored it a 9. 9 out of 10. Man, I just can't say it enough. One of the greatest kung fu films ever. One of the greatest. Just amazing. Just amazing. Sean the Icon says the funniest part is when when the guy in the restaurant boasted that he killed such and such, and he was really talking about flies he killed. Yeah, he said Wu Chi took his head clean off. He was like, "Yeah, I'm the one-armed boxer." He was like, he's like, "Was that man the one-armed boxer?" They said, "No, he was just a bum." He was like, I intend to kill every one-armed man that I come across. Yeah, buddy. See, when you like kung fu films, man, it's films like this that really do a service to the cinematic experience, man. Yeah. But Jimmy Wang Yu, he had it in the bag with this one, though. But I got a little surprise for you guys too on this one, because I decided that I would also kick you down with something a little special. Check this out. Keep your eyes on the screen.
From beyond time, from beyond the outer limits of your imagination. He's the master of the flying guillotine. And he's ready to blow your mind. With more nerve-shattering special effects than you have ever seen before. It's a trip into a world where warriors from the ends of the universe meet in combat that knows no boundaries. A world where silent soldiers of death try everything in their power to conquer the most gruesome weapon ever conceived. See special visual effects filmed entirely in Super Cinevision as the master of the flying guillotine encounters the most amazing creatures in this or any world. As he experiences the most spectacular adventures the mind can imagine. The master of the flying guillotine.
Man, that Adolf Caesar used to do those voiceovers for those trailers in the 70s and early 80s, man. It was nothing like tuning in and hearing that guy, you know, talking about these films. But what an awesome film experience this was, man. I can't say it enough. This Champion Heart, you like that, huh? Yeah, buddy. Yeah, you're right. He did have a great voice. I remember him in A Soldier's Story. He was so good in that. He used to do voiceover for kung fu films and regular movies too, the trailers. There's probably no telling how many voiceovers he did. Anybody got any other questions on this? Because I may come back and do a part 2 on Master of the Flying Guillotine. Such an awesome film. Such an awesome film. Yeah. So. Mm-hmm. No questions, huh? Okay. Well, I'm gonna get ready to wrap this up, man. It's like been a good evening. I'm a little fading now because I start my day so early, man. Shogun is asking, how many of these did they make? This was the only Master of the Flying Guillotine that they made, bro. But there are a total of about 5 Guillotine films. You got a film called Fatal Flying Guillotines, The Flying Guillotines 1 and 2, The Dragon Missile. Those are all, that's a Shaw Brothers film. And then there's one more that I'm not thinking of right now. But about 5 altogether. Yeah. But I'm going to get ready to hit it, y'all, because brother is tired. But I was so enthused to come out and talk about this movie tonight. I had watched about 20 minutes of it before I started the live, so I may go back and watch the rest before I go to sleep. But if you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, with no delay, check it out. It's great. It is great. Highly entertaining. So, but I'm gonna get on up out of here, man. I want to say shout out to the mighty LDBC for all of you who came through, hit my like button. I appreciate you guys. It says we had over 90 something people watching, but I only got 28 likes. But you know, think about that. All of those people coming to my channel to watch and eavesdrop and everything on this, but they don't want to hit my like button. But that's okay, because you know what? My money's going up, my views going up, Stormy's coming up. So I will be riding that wave continuously. And hey, there'll be probably another 300 views on this after tonight, because that's what they do. They'll wait till I'm not live and then they'll go and watch it. I don't understand how that works, but whatever, you know. Can't wrap my brain around the absurd. So, peace to you guys. We'll catch you on the next one.